Hi, I'm Ben Stanhope.
And I'm Zach Leewold.
I'm Daniel Grimes.
And welcome to the Movie Vault. Today we are reviewing Matthew Vaughn's second feature film, I believe, that was released in the year 2007. It's called Stardust, and it made $137 million on a very large $70 to $88.5 million budget. So somewhere in that range, Matthew was shelling out the dough.
There was a very OCD person who created that budget.
Yeah.
Very specific.
They were like, no greater than, but no less than, I guess. I don't feel like that's OCD. I feel like the OCD person would be like trying to get exact cent, that like the budget to the exact cent.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, isn't that how studio budgets usually work?
You would think that is how they work, because I think they have to approve every like adjustment. You know, like you can't just
something like that.
You can't just overspend. So
not unless you're Warner Brothers shooting another Justice League movie.
Yeah, that's true. You're reshooting Zack Snyder's original vision as a recut. It's totally recut.
Anyway, Daniel is Ben's friend, and we asked him to be on the podcast. He said yes, so thank you for coming, Daniel.
No, thank you for having me.
And this is, I believe, this is one of your favorite movies, correct?
I believe it is my current favorite movie.
His current favorite movie,
and it has been for what I say, 4 years at least, maybe 5 years now.
It's called Stardust. I don't think.
Yes.
No, I didn't.
You did. Yeah. Anyway, and he also brought us some nice drinks.
Wow. You want to have a good drink while you're
root
enjoying
beer.
the movie?
Yes. I also want to mention that this movie got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 76%, because that's the only thing that matters when you look at movies. Just kidding.
Wait, is that critic or popular review?
I believe that's the critic, and the
well, nobody cares what the critics have to say.
The audience says paid. Higher. The audience says 86%.
The audience always likes things way better.
The audience is probably like, oh, Michelle Pfeiffer's in this. 86%.
I mean, maybe. I for one did not read Rotten Tomatoes before I watched this. I just went, what's this movie, and clicked on it, and boom, new favorite movie.
And boom, Robert De Niro's in it.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, that is true. This movie is a very much like, oh wow, this person's in it. What? Wait, this person.
Ricky Gervais, Michelle Pfeiffer, Robert De Niro.
Yeah,
okay. Charlie Cox.
Yeah. Well, okay. So initially, if I remember correctly, Matthew Vaughn wanted Charlie Cox as like his main character. And there were a whole bunch of like famous people that wanted to be in it as like, hey, this is a starring movie for us. And he really wanted Charlie Cox, and so he had to get a whole bunch of like famous people to be supporting characters for the studio to be like, all right, you can have Charlie Cox be the main character.
Oh, I see.
Because he wanted a character that could like start off as the awkward guy and grow into the suave, debonair hero that he becomes at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I feel like in Charlie Cox, this was his breakthrough movie. He hadn't had anything real big before this, and I don't think that Matthew Vaughn had actually had anything that he had directed. Like, I think he directed one movie before this. I forget what it was called, but I don't think it was as big as this movie. He had produced some Guy Ritchie movies earlier in his career, so he like started out as a producer, which I thought was kind of strange, because usually people start out as directors and then they like start producing movies after they've directed a couple, but he kind of did the reverse of that. And he's also directed The Kingsman, so this is not like his biggest movie that he's ever done, but
yeah, and Charlie Cox is also Daredevil for those of you.
Yeah, so this is like a starting point for a lot of important people,
and then they've gone on to bigger and better things now. So
maybe not better things, but bigger.
Well, okay, fair. Bigger things at least.
I personally have not watched Kingsman, so I can't really say whether I like it more or less. But we do a 3-point rating scale called Botch, Watch, or Top Notch, just to get your kind of like assessment. So Botch would be like, we never want to see this movie again in our entire lives. Nobody needs to see this. Watch is like, like most movies would fall into this range. Unless, like, there's probably a fair amount of movies that we will never watch that would fall into the Botch
range. We need to
range.
figure out the percentage that we've said watch.
Well, like, I feel so. I'm taking statistics, so we need one of those like graphs that's like the mound,
like the mean.
Yeah. So the mean should be directly in the middle, and then like top notch is like the top 80th percentile or something, and then the bottom is like the bottom 20th percentile.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
So if we, I don't know how we would ever be able to make that, but it's like in theory that would be how you like think of the rating.
There's a nice bell curve there.
Yeah.
Where the meaty parts, watch it. It's a movie.
And then movies can be on the higher ends of the bell curve too. So
right.
That's why the watch range is a little bit more like there's like differences in the movies that fall into that category. Top Notch is obviously like legendary status.
I mean, you could use our scale to decide what to watch, or you could just click the Netflix, what's here, random button.
Yeah, that's true. Or you could use I use realgood.com and play movie roulette. You can put the streaming services you have in and just click randomize, and it'll pick a random.
What does that say about the amount of content that we have available to us that we're just like, even the images don't like interest us that much anymore? You're like, just pick something for me.
We no longer, as a generation, judge a book by its cover, but at the same time we do, because it's like the first 10 minutes, if they don't catch us, then the content is usually not that great.
Yeah, that's why I started paying attention to directors, because like I feel like if you can find a director who like at least consistently makes like decent movies, then you'll know, it's by this guy. That was awkward. Nice. And even if it's bad, you're like, well, I watched another one of his movies, so I'm like one movie closer to watching his whole filmography. So you can always say that. But yeah, I would say for me, this movie falls into the watch category. I don't know exactly where it would compare to the other ones, but I definitely enjoyed watching it and would recommend other people to watch it as well.
I would also say watch, same reasons as Ben, probably.
And of course, for me, it's top notch because it's my favorite movie.
Yeah,
it has a good blend of like all kinds of different styles.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But if you wouldn't mind, for the viewers who haven't seen it or have seen it and need a little bit of reminding about what this movie was like, would you mind giving us a little 5-minute plot synopsis or longer? Or
I'll
less?
See if I can do that. So yeah, basically it stars a boy called Tristan Thorne. He's the main character, and he is interested in dating this girl named Victoria. And unfortunately, he's not the only one, because there's a better, handsome, suave, debonair guy who's Humphrey.
Yes. Always date Humphreys. That's a little tidbit for you ladies out there.
Yeah, anyway, the Humphrey is really a much better match for Victoria, and Tristan's trying to get her attention, and so he manages to talk her into having champagne by candlelight with him. And she's like, hey, Humphrey's going to propose to me on my birthday. It's totally happening. And he's like, what? Really? How can I prove that I like you more? And they see a shooting star. And he's like, I'll get you the star. That's how I'll prove it. And she's like, okay, you have a week, and then it's my birthday. And so he crosses the wall into the magical kingdom that nobody really knows existed, because nobody's allowed to cross the wall.
I want to sneak in it. I think this might be the wall that Pink Floyd was singing about, just saying, because they're from England.
I mean, that's an interesting correlation you would make. I can neither confirm or deny that. But anyway, he does cross the wall and finds himself in the middle of this whole war for succession of the kingdom, where the king is on his deathbed dying. 4 of the king's sons are still alive. 3 of them are dead. And like only one of them can be king, so they're going to all kill each other off.
It's in their blood.
Yes, it's in their blood. So he finds himself in the middle of that. He runs into the star that he's been seeking. And so now his quest is to bring this star back. But he's not the only person who was looking for the star. There's a trio of witches who are also looking for the star, because if they get her heart, then they can regenerate their beauty and continue to live in immortality. And so it's just there's all these parties coming together to try and get the girl, steal her heart, do whatever with her. And so it's his adventure to get back to the town of Wall, cross the wall, and bring the star to Victoria, who he realizes as he goes that he actually likes her, Yvain, the star, better than Victoria. And so it's about his growing and becoming, really going from a boy to a man in the end of the movie. And then ultimately he realizes that he's the heir after all the brothers kill each other off, and he ends up being the heir and becomes the king.
So you could really think of this as sort of a coming of age story.
I suppose you could, yeah.
It's not like a traditional, high school is a weird time coming of age.
Well, it's more of a fantasy coming of age story.
Yeah,
I do think the word blend worked well, because it kind of blends like the love story, the action story, and I mean, the fantasy.
I was trying to think what influenced this movie, and you definitely see like bits of The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride is a very like comical and satirical type of movie, really, and it was purposely like made to look cheap. And this movie was like, I'm assuming it was like pretty in its time. Like maybe now we look back at some of the graphics and we're like, oh, those look a little dated. But in 2007,
Those look a little David.
sorry, David, we're not trying to offend you. If David made graphics, they would look like this. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, if he could make graphics like that, that would actually be pretty.
I'd be impressed.
That would be pretty
Make
impressive.
some movie vault videos.
But like, it definitely a lot of the witch stuff with like the green and like it's
magic.
dated, but that's the essence of like what happens with CGI. Like what's it dates so fast, and that's why it's dangerous to use it. But I think that you can still appreciate the movie even with those things.
Yeah, and I think that was a very well like laid out plot synopsis. So good job, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and if that didn't make you want to watch the movie, then I'm sorry for you, because
Yeah.
like I guess
think
it's
you're
just not the
missing out.
movie for you if you don't want to. Because I had no idea what we were getting into. I will say the title of the movie I don't think necessarily gives the movie justice as to what it's about. So
Yeah, that's a
so
fair
like
point.
it's
This was
called
not what
Like
I was expecting.
it's explained in the movie. When
Yes.
you watch the movie, you understand why it's called Stardust, but it's not really doesn't encapsulate the entire theme of the movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who do judge like movies by their cover or literally by their title would be like, Stardust, that sounds like not super interesting or like not really up my alley, but it might actually be.
Or you might confuse it with like a documentary or something.
Oh, that's true. A documentary about David Bowie, probably. So I'm making a lot of musical references that Zach doesn't understand, and he's feeling like not very smart right now. He's like, well, Ben, he just knows so much more than me. I'm just kidding. So Pink Floyd made this album called The Wall, and it was like,
We're gonna explain this part right now.
Yeah, I'm explaining this. It's one of the biggest like Pink Floyd albums, and like it's sort of like some people love it and some people hate it. And this one movie critic that I know made a whole like parody album making fun of this, like making fun of The Wall. And yeah, so if you want to check out The Wall,
Gate.
it's got that Uncomfortably Numb on it, which is one of Pink Floyd's biggest songs.
Actually, one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs.
Yeah, honestly, it's definitely one of the best Pink Floyd songs. But we didn't come here to talk about Pink Floyd.
Well, you brought up The Princess Bride, which Stardust gets compared to all the time.
Yeah, I
even though
believe that.
what year is The Princess Bride? It's like
87,
87.
probably.
Okay, I wanted to say 84, but I might be wrong. But yes, they do have a very similar fairy tale feel with a nice blend of action and romance.
Yeah.
Stardust, being more modern, takes a lot more advantage of the CGI and the graphics they can have.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can.
I also think the
same
plot
themes, really.
is. I don't know whether it's more complex than The Princess Bride, but The Princess Bride had like sort of a different.
There's a lot more
point.
characters that all have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Like The Princess Bride seems like a lot of times they are literally like they're just trying to set up jokes and things in the movie, where like they're actually fleshing out characters while they're making jokes. But like I think the tone of the movie definitely like is very comparable to The Princess Bride in like a lot of ways.
Especially those parts with like the ghosts. Those are the
Yes,
funniest parts. for me.
which I should note that the ghosts in this movie aren't actually in the book, and so
Which there's a book.
yes,
by the way.
which I have read. So yeah, the ghosts. There are a few things that they changed for this movie. I think for the better, actually. Like the whole addition of the ghosts, they're like, we need comic relief characters, and the ghosts fill that role perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the ghosts were a good addition, even if they seemed like a little out of place sometimes. But then once you sort of like accepted that they were there, it was like, oh, okay, like we can have fun with these characters. But unfortunately, not everyone had the same glowing opinion of this movie.
Glowing opinion.
Yeah, that wasn't even on purpose. So Deborah
Star
Ross
jokes.
from The Spectator will be joining us for our outsider review. So as you know, our motto is you can always be a pessimist, which is why we always read negative reviews for every movie that we do. And some movies it's kind of hard when they have like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes to like find a rotten review, but we go and we find it. Even if it's 100%, we scour the Reddit threads just to find somebody who
somewhere
hates the
doesn't
movie.
like this movie.
Even like if we ever do like Citizen Kane or like something like that, I'm sure there's like tons of people who hate that movie that you could find. Just you have to look at the right places.
Literally dozens.
Yeah. But Deborah Ross says, this is utterly formulaic. True, there are a few jokes, but as they are all extraordinarily lame, this can't be called a send-up. I don't know what her number score was, but I'm sure it wasn't good. So, Deborah, you sound like you're from Baby Driver, by the way.
Deborah.
Yeah. Do you prefer the Beck song or the T-Rex song?
I prefer the T-Rex song.
I prefer the Beck song. Team Beck.
Team Rex.
I'm indifferent.
You're indifferent.
Yeah.
You've watched Baby Driver, right?
I have. Oh yes.
But you're indifferent to which Deborah song.
I mean, they both had their places.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna talk about Edgar Wright, he's a master of directing.
That's true.
But we're talking about Matthew Vaughn this time, so.
Yeah. Who might not be quite as much of a master, but he's also British, and he certainly didn't.
So that adds something.
Mm-hmm.
Because Edgar Wright's British too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually add anything. But hey, hey, what if you are a magician? I hope you're not. But if you are,
why do you hope they're not?
I don't know. I just hope people aren't using witchcraft out there, you know?
Oh, okay.
What about like a stage musician?
But like, yeah, what if you're a stage magician? Stage magicians, there's liability. For liability, what do you need? Insurance. That's why we call up our boys at Hedman Anglin Agency.
For all the stage magic you guys do?
And they're known for saving money on home auto business, which magicianship is a business, so you could have insurance on that. Definitely is a liability issue. And they love to help you out with any of the needs that you might have. So if you would like, you can call them at 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And if you do contact them, make sure to tell them that Bennett and Zach sent you. So the boys are sending you to the boys. And this is like no disrespect to our sponsor. We're just trying to have fun.
That's probably a good idea, even if you're not a magician.
Yeah, to have insurance. Yeah, no, seriously though, you can like actually save a lot of money.
If you're a regular guy with a regular job and you have a regular wife and regular kids, please get regular insurance.
Because the thing is, I can't 100% guarantee, but I know that if you call these guys, they will look at your insurance and they will compare them to other rates, and they'll help to try to save you $100, $200, $300, maybe even more dollars, just to get you a better deal. And on like especially auto insurance, like a lot of it is really practical, like stuff that you have to have if you have a car or if you have a house,
like wheels.
Or you should at least have.
You should have it. I mean, you're supposed to have it by the government standards. I'm sure there's some people who don't, but definitely
most people should call them.
And if you're one of our younger listeners, you might be saying, "Oh, why is my favorite podcaster who's in college telling me that I need to think about insurance?" Well, pretty soon, next couple of years, who knows, you might need insurance, and you might be listening to this episode like 3 years after it came out. And hopefully the Hedman Anglin Agency will still be in business for you to call at that point. So give them a shout.
Yeah, I would hope that in 3 years they'd be in business. They will. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of weird thinking about like things in the future.
Will we be around in 3 years?
I mean, we don't really know for sure. Like this podcast might not be around in 3 years. Who knows? It's not even made it to a year yet, so.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're more than halfway.
Yeah. But now I think we can get to the scoring of the movie. Because, you know, Zach and I have to revert every piece of art down to a number.
Yes.
Wait, you're quantifying art?
We're quantifying
art. Wow, good luck with that.
I know. Because actually, if you look at our scores, it's kind of frustrating because we're like, oh, is that really how it should be rated? Well, I don't know. If you can't really quantify art, but we attempt to on this show.
And we do it. And we do it well.
Because people like that kind of stuff. All right. So sentiment is the first category. How much did this movie impact you?
I would say this was actually it was good. It was good for me. So I'm not the biggest fantasy type. Yeah, I mean,
have you ever watched Lord of the Rings?
Let's not bring that up. I give it a 6 completely. So
I give it a 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I did enjoy this. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I knew it was fantasy, but like I think like some of the humor, I didn't think the humor was lame like that one lady. I thought it was good. So I gave it a 7, which is comparable to some other movies that I've given 7.2s.
I mean, I'll give it a 7 too.
A 7.
Okay.
In terms of sentiment.
I did slightly tear up at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, well, I think with sentiment, it can be an interesting one. I didn't really tear up in this movie, but I could see it like if you're in the right place.
It's not really like a tearjerker or anything.
But like I teared up at the end of Despicable Me 2. We've mentioned that several times. So
I
have the capacity to tear up.
Honestly, that's completely understandable.
Yeah.
He gets married.
He gets married. Wait, what happened?
Isn't that the end of Despicable Me 2?
Yeah, that is what happens. For some reason, Despicable Me's 1's ending is gut-wrenching. Oh my gosh. What an emotional masterpiece.
They know how to do it over at DreamWorks, I have to say.
They do know how to do it.
I like Dr. Nefari.
Wait,
they don't do it like Pixar.
Illumination?
They don't do it like Pixar, where they're just like, we'll get a good soundtrack and then we'll just play it and make you feel sad. That's what Pixar does.
Like Finding Nemo?
DreamWorks is like, okay, we're gonna make it funny but serious.
Yeah. When you look at my top like lists of movies, like all of my top movies, I'm like, oh, that's one of my favorite soundtracks. So I'm like, soundtrack does like add a lot, but we'll get to that because we rate soundtrack too.
Next up, Message.
I gave it a 7 because but I mean, it's sort of like a typical message, like, oh, he thought he wanted this girl, but he didn't want her for the right reasons, and she didn't really want him, and he was just like not caring about that, and he learned about like what true love was. But like, it's a good message. Sometimes people need like to have the same message hammered home over and over again for them to actually learn it. So it's not always bad.
Yeah, so again, same thing. I gave it a 6, so that's one below Ben, because I'm always the slightly worse pessimist, to be honest. And it's nothing against the plot itself. It's just, again, that it's repetition. So.
Repetition is the mother of learning, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd like to think I learned, but I'll give it a 6 as well, honestly.
Okay.
6.
So, like you pointed out, it's not a groundbreaking message, but it's enough to tie the story along.
Yeah. And then plot is next. So we went over the plot. It's actually a lot more complicated. Actually out. So I actually gave plot an 8 because I thought that little way that the plot was separated out and then intersected all back together was really well done. And a lot of times movies like that can get messy, but this movie did a pretty good job of tying everything together. Even if it was sort of predictable and some of the things, even to him becoming king at the end, but it's not always bad to be predictable as long as you execute well, and I thought they did a fine job of that, so I gave it an 8.
Yeah, so once again, one below, I gave it a 7. I did enjoy the plot. I thought there were a lot of cool elements to it. I liked the witch storyline. I liked the king storyline, like who's going to be king. I also liked the mother and the father storyline, and then the love storyline. So there's just a lot of storylines, but it all connects to one character, and it all kind of comes together at the end. So I thought that was cool, like Ben said. It wasn't disorganized, and it wasn't just a mess. It was actually thoughtful, and it had a purpose. So I enjoyed it. So 7.
I'll go with 8 on this one too. Back to Ben's rating, because like you pointed out, there's a lot of characters. They're all doing their own thing, but they interact nicely. It all fits together. If you're paying attention, then they do a good job of explaining, setting things up and then explaining how things interconnect. And yeah, there's definitely some parts that are predictable. They're okay, this is going to happen. I think they did do a good job of trying to have a couple different twists in there that you're wait, this happened. Those twists might be predictable or not, depending on how much you're reading into it. You might see it coming.
Or
but even then, yeah.
It might be one of those things where after it happens, you're oh yeah, of course that happens. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily that you predicted it ahead of time, but that they took the route that was the path of least resistance. But sometimes if you just change things radically for no reason, it makes the movie terrible. So it's not always good to actually try to make the twist. You don't have to be M. Night Shyamalan all the time. Because
in fact, some people would definitely prefer if you weren't.
Yeah. So. I mean, maybe you can do it once, but you don't have to do it for every single movie that you make.
Even M. Night Shyamalan doesn't have to be M. Night Shyamalan all the time, okay?
So his new movie, Old, better not have a twist at the end.
Yeah, but it will. He better actually be old.
At this point, it's his trademark.
Yeah. I need to watch some of his other movies, because obviously
the biggest twist would be not having a twist.
I've seen The Sixth Sense, which has...
That's true.
The Sixth Sense has one of the best twists of all time. But I haven't really seen any of his other movies, like Signs or Split or Unbreakable or some of those that I need to. But
I don't know. Maybe those have a better twist.
Maybe they have better twists than The Sixth Sense, which would be crazy because that was an amazing twist. Character arcs.
I give character arcs a 7. I thought it was okay. I thought that the witches, like, obviously the witches were like cardboard. They were like flat characters, I'd say, but
with the one part where they like twist into like making you think for
That
like
she
1
cared
second
about
that
her
she cared,
sisters.
but it didn't. You knew that it didn't make sense for her to be like that, and then she switched back. So
Although-
that was like the only like sort of change of character.
Although I do question why she needed to let them loose just to mess with them and then try to kill them, because she had them in her hands, like, to kill.
like the sisters, because
Like,
she
no,
was,
like the last witch had that knife and she was about to kill the guy and the girl.
yeah. Why did she need to do that?
And she,
I can explain that actually.
Oh,
So, yeah, in case you also didn't catch why that is. So she said lets them go because, like, if you notice, Yvain, like, is how she starts glowing when she's rescued because, like, Tristan saved her, and so, like, the glowing, I forget how she described it, like the energetic heart of a star is way better for it.
Right.
So she thinks she still has it in control because she captures them she's in his house, so she just locks the door basically. But and when she's on the table, scared out of her wits, her heart's not nearly as potent and powerful as when she lets it go, and Yvain thinks she's gonna get out of it.
gotcha. That makes sense because there had to be a good reason for her to try to do that, and that like it sounded like there was a significant difference between like a normal heart and like a glowing heart.
It's just more potent, more powerful.
Like it'll last, and obviously that's all she wants. That's all she cares about is for it to be more potent. I also gave character arcs a 7, by the way, and yeah, I'm kind of angry with you. There was a lot of pretty good character arcs. Tristan's was good. Even Yvette's was actually kind of like
Yvain?
Yvain. Sorry, Yvette's. That's the one actress from Community.
Yvette Nicole Brown.
Yeah. But like her character arc was a little bit more like discreet, but like you could tell like she was kind of like annoyed at first, and then but she didn't really understand what it was to be like human or like. I mean, she's a star, so I don't exactly know how that works, but because I don't know whether she looks like a human, but she's a star. But like she doesn't know what it's like to live on Earth, and she starts to like it's sort of like Soul.
Yeah.
Where like
Interesting comparison.
she doesn't know what living as life like, and she just assumed it would be like terrible because there's all this hardship and pain on Earth, and then she like realizes that like love is like so amazing, and that makes it worth living.
I feel like there's a lot of movies like that.
Yeah, so maybe Soul wasn't super unique; it just had a unique way of portraying.
Soul's a good example. You're right.
Yeah.
Character, yeah, I'll say 7 for character arcs too. I don't really have a whole lot to add beyond what you brought up.
Yeah. I don't know like character arcs is an interesting one because it's sort of hard to tell what makes a character arc like great like above like other character arcs because like they were definitely well done. I'm sure you could like make a whole like try to write a whole thing on like what makes like the best character arc if you really thought about it, but 7 seems like a good number. Because I'm trying to like explain the quantification, which you can't really do.
I would recommend looking up Dan Harmon's story circle. It's really interesting because he has like it's like six or 8 steps that he uses for every character in a story to like drive the plot and get like hammer home a message. And it works. He uses it for Rick and Morty. He used it for Community.
Which is weird because Rick and Morty is not supposed to have a message.
But the message is that there's no message. So that is a message within itself. The message is nihilistic. It's that there's nothing here that we have substance in. Like we don't have to believe in anything. We don't have to do anything. What are we even doing? What is the point of this? Obviously, it's a very nihilistic way to look, and it's not that great. But it's like a point that he's trying to make. So it's still a message, sort of.
Yeah, Rick and Morty is definitely his much darker take as compared to Community, but Community I think has some of those themes in it really.
Some of that buzzed out me too.
Yeah, but now we'll go into cinematography, which has nothing to do with nihilism.
Cinematography. Sorry, I gave it a 6. I thought it was really good. Obviously, some of the CGI is a little bit outdated, but yeah, I mean, different color palettes throughout. Obviously, I'm not an artist, so I don't know. But again, we have to quantify it, so a 6.
I gave it a 7 because I think I'll give it a pass on some of the CGI stuff. Like obviously it's not the best, but I would consider I think it was good in its time. So I'm trying to like remember that this movie was made like 14 years ago. So you like if you're going back and watching like Raiders of the Lost Ark or like something that's from the 80s, obviously like it's not directly comparable to now, but like a good movie will age well in the long run. But I'll give it a pass on some of that stuff because like the way that they like zoomed in and out and like some of those like shots like really helped the fantasy aspect because they like accentuated just like how interesting the like area of the world that was, and it like sort of like grabbed your attention and brought you into this like weird like world that's like somehow connected to England, and I don't even know what time period of England this was supposed to be in. Like,
I think it's supposed to be timeless.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah. What about you for cinematography?
I'm gonna give cinematography an 8.
An 8.
Just because I don't really have a problem with the CGI, other than like maybe a couple shots in the market in the beginning where like modern CGI has gotten a lot better with the color palettes and shadings. A lot of it's just particle effects and the fire and things like that.
Yeah.
That I think they look completely fine. I love a lot of the camera shots, especially like the one where she conjures up the entire inn and it's panning and flying through the rafters as this house is going on there.
True. That was a cool shot.
There's a lot of great drones. They may have even been helicopter shots at that point of just the landscapes and setting the stage for characters are moving through space because they're all trying to interact with each other.
Yeah.
There's a couple good underwater shots, things like that,
Yeah.
or following the ship. So I thought there was definitely some clever. It wasn't all like character focus, straightforward blocking.
Yeah. Here's one thing I thought of. We don't really talk about editing that much, but at the end of the movie, when they have the rapid cuts in between the 3 people as they're, or this might even be 4 people, as like Yvain is going towards the wall, like that way that they edited it so they have the different shots of the people coming and then following, really build up the intensity at the end.
It heightens the tension for sure.
And so I think like they were very skilled in like the presentation of the movie, especially towards the end, I thought.
Yeah, there's some excellent cuts in there. There's some nice J cuts and L cuts where sound ends and before a picture does and things like that.
And I will say editing is something that you forget about. I've been watching this movie called M that was made in 1931, and the cuts are like how far we've gotten in cuts. Like it actually helps this movie, but like the cuts are so abrupt and like take you in and out of scenes so quickly. Like the way that they're able to use cuts now, it's like a lot of times we forget how important editing is. Like editors are like the most underappreciated people in film, but like they do play a really important role. Like you can't just have footage; you have to have somebody who knows how to like put them in the right places.
And also, that's the benefit of having way better tools than a razor blade now.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Okay, style. No, wait, I skipped like 2 things. Originality. I give originality a 7. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I gave it an 8. I gave it one more actually than you this time.
Wow.
I thought it was a good mesh. I don't know, like the ratio of fantasy to action to love was very different than I'd seen before, so I gave it an 8.
Spoiler alert, it's not like the Lord of the Rings.
No, definitely not.
I tried to be a little more charming than that.
Yeah. There's obviously two very different points that the movies were going for. What about you? What do you think?
I'll say 7 because it very much fits in like the fantasy genre. You're like, okay, this is another fantasy story. There's nothing incredibly unique about it, but at the same time, it's not a cookie cutter. Neil Gaiman, who's the writer of the book that it's based off of, said he wanted to make a fairy tale for adults. Yeah. And it definitely does that, not in a like Batman-esque dark gritty reboot sort of way, but
this is what a fairy tale would look like in real life.
Right. But there's definitely some more elements that would appeal to an adult that would be at the very least intense for younger viewers, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it kind of has its own uniqueness to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not Christopher Nolan, or we're gonna turn the whole thing on its head sort of idea.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't think the fact that it's not 100% original is like a negative thing for this movie.
No.
Like they're playing into some of the tropes and then they're like adding certain new things into like the tropes, which is what you do with tropes. You like freshen them up. and the movie accomplishes it pretty well for the most part. How about acting?
Ooh. Acting, I gave a 7.
I also gave it a 7.
Yeah, it was solid. I mean, I think there's that the quality of actors put that in there. Like
yeah, for sure.
There was a lot of famous actors that kind of contributed to the great
That
acting.
know their craft. We've done it for a while. I'll give it an 8.
Yeah.
Honestly. I didn't think there's anybody that was in it that was like, oh, that drags it down or anything.
That is true.
I may even give it a 9. I'll tell you what, I'll give it a 9.
Okay.
Yeah,
solid actors.
I would agree with that. I don't think any. Usually, I'm like, oh, this person was like super annoying, or this person dragged it down. But like, I can't really think of anybody who was like that in this movie. Like, there just wasn't. It was just solid acting all around. Even if it wasn't like De Niro was in it, and it was a pretty like average De Niro performance. It wasn't like he was like coming off the screen. But De Niro is good at not like overtaking the movie because he's a huge name, and he could easily try kind of like take the scene and like take the point of the movie away. But he's actually very good at acting supporting roles in movies.
And he sells his character really well too.
Yeah. So like you might see a big name like De Niro and be like, oh, De Niro's in it, but this movie's not really about De Niro. It's De Niro. They needed him to be in it to have like a big name, but like he plays the side character that he's supposed to like pretty much to perfection. Like,
his character's pretty funny too.
A rather fanciful pirate, as I like to call him.
That's one way to put it.
True.
Okay, so style. This is I would try to explain this to you, Daniel, but we don't really know exactly what style means.
Oh, good.
25 episodes into this. Like, when we said style, like, it's sort of like the essence of the movie. Like, all of how the cinematography and the script writing and everything, like, fits together.
Okay.
Like, the distinct style. Like, when you think of directors, like, Tarantino has a style, Edgar Wright has a style. So, like, how good is the style? And I actually gave it an 8. Because I liked the style overall, like how everything fit together.
Again, -1. I gave it a 7. I think that, I mean, again, the ratio is a little bit different than I'd seen in other movies because it does go back and forth between a bunch of different storylines. But I think it does help this movie going from different storylines because I think the fact that they filled it with so much and then they like kind of interweaved it together, it just, you gotta kind of appreciate that as a movie viewer, I guess. So.
I'll go with 8 too, and I'll note that I haven't seen a lot of Matthew Vaughn movies. Like I haven't seen Layer Cake, which is his first movie before this.
Yeah,
one.
that's the one I had thought of. That I can remember what the name was.
Yeah, and I can't think of anything else by him that I've seen at this point. So I don't know where this falls in his signature Vaughn style to do anything, but. I mean, to describe it the way you did, I think all the elements blend together quite well.
Yeah.
So, it's not a cinematic masterpiece. They're not going to give it, Oscar or anything. But
No, they won't. It's not it's not an art house film either.
That's
not what the intention is either. You can't, be expecting, this fantasy movie to be, this like an art house piece. Like that just doesn't necessarily work. Although I'm sure there's somebody who's made a fantasy art house piece somewhere. I'm trying to think of a movie that would fit into that bill, and is The Green Knight. That hasn't even come out yet. That might be a movie that would fit into that category, but I'm not sure. Or what's that one guy who made? No, I can't think of I'm thinking of a movie, but I can't think of it.
I'll probably at least have to watch The Green Knight before we can make that judgment.
Yeah. I mean, The Green Knight might not even be about anything that I think it's about. So, I guess we'll find out when it comes out later this year. How about score? So soundtrack score.
Oh, yes.
I gave it an 8. I thought the soundtrack in the background, the score, it's a very fantasy score, traditional. Yeah, it was orchestra, and it was big, grandiose. It just sounded really cool, and I thought it fit the scenes really well. You could tell the intense scenes by the orchestra and everything. So
I also gave it an 8. It's very good, and that song at the end for the credits was good, so you get extra bonus points for that.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect score to fit the movie. It's what you expect out of fantasy score, and it does its job very well, and it picks up the intensity, just like Zach said.
I'm giving it a 9. Just shy of perfection. There's a whole bunch of great little things. From including the can in there to, like we said, the intense scenes of all of these chases of people coming together, Prince Septimus's theme being in 7/8 time, just a little details like that.
See, that's why I can't. Having only viewed it one time, I can't appreciate it to that level. Which I'm glad that we have you on here to bring that up, because like somebody who's watched it 5-6 times will be able to like understand those things. Also, Daniel has a much better understanding of music overall. He plays guitar, and so he can pick up some of those things. So it's actually,
or I can just read the IMDb notes of that too. That also helps a lot.
I'm like, wow, he has such a musical ear. He could just hear the song.
No, not that. I mean, if somebody tells me that, I can recognize it. But.
Yeah. No, but you're actually probably our highest level of like musical expert that we've ever had on the show.
Okay, so if we watch August Rush or something, then maybe I'll come back.
Yeah, I've never heard of August Rush, but if you want to come back and watch it,
well, you'd never heard of Stardust, but before I mentioned it,
that's true. So it just goes to show you that I don't actually know about every movie like that.
In case anyone had that perception.
Yeah, because as you notice, one of the big things on the show that I try to do is like connect everything together. Because like movie making is like one big puzzle. Like all these people are like fit into like all these different movies, and that fascinates me. So when I don't know something, it like bugs me, But there's a lot of things that I still don't know. Isn't that annoying, Zach?
It's just constantly bugged.
No, it's actually not.
Finally, we have choreography, which is like action sequences, and I guess actually literal choreography with some of the dance scenes in this movie.
Yeah, choreography I thought was okay. When I think of it as a movie, like there's a lot of different things, like a lot of different ways choreography could be judged. Because there were fight scenes, there were dance scenes, there were like, I don't know, different powers used and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was okay because like the powers being used, it wasn't like groundbreaking or anything. Like, and when I think of like powers being used, I think of Marvel. So I think that like ruined my taste for other powers, because like those powers, like they're using them in really creative ways. So I gave it a 6. Just it was pretty good. But I didn't give it an amazing score, so. I
gave it a 7. I don't know if I have a whole lot more to add. Some of the fencing was really good, but I don't know whether it was really groundbreaking. And, there's a lot. I think the scene that kind of stands out, this isn't really choreography, though. Like, when they're walking through and, like, the mirrors are all breaking. But, like, I don't know that you can count that as choreography, but it's one of the coolest, like,
it's like scenery, kind of.
Coolest looking, like, things that happened in the movie.
No, it's definitely a cool effect to see how much glass can we break here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a large chunk of that was all visual effects, but it looks spectacular.
Yeah, I agree. That probably can go back into cinematography. But what do you think about choreography?
I'll give it a 6 as well too. Like you were saying, there's nothing like particularly groundbreaking. The sword fights, things like that, they're all like they're action based, really.
Yeah.
So you're not comparing it to like the duel in The Princess Bride, where that's very much about the characters and whatnot. This movie doesn't really have that. It's just like, hey, a whole bunch of groups of people fighting against each other, or even in the duels and whatnot. It's still very action, very fluid motion.
Yeah.
So it looks good, but there's nothing like it doesn't come across as deliberate necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So if we total our scores, mine adds up to 73%, which puts it at around, I don't know, let's see, 73% would put it right above Swiss Army Man and right below Jojo Rabbit for me at like the 10th spot. I actually haven't updated the last couple movies, so maybe it'll give or take a few spots.
Mine total was a 68%. Yeah. And then, Daniel, I added yours up, and you gave it a 76%.
76? Okay, I was like,
which exactly equals the Rotten Tomatoes critic score.
Right.
What does that tell us? He's the perfect critic.
I feel like that's a fair score, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did that, because I wasn't keeping track, so somebody was going to have to.
Yeah, we've actually done it several times where we have not kept track of the guest score, usually because I was trying to do it, and I'm not very good at like paying attention to like everything that's going on, because I'm like looking at the sound, and then like... We need a producer is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. David, stop having papers. I'm just kidding.
David's teacher, stop assigning him papers.
Yeah, David's professors, come on. Step your game up. And he would probably also like his check to be a little higher.
Got important things to do.
You mean from zero?
From zero, yeah.
Well, that's your problem. You're not paying him enough to produce the podcast.
That is true.
I'll buy you some McDonald's, true. David. Okay, if you watch this, if he actually watches this, I'll buy a McDonald's. If he doesn't watch it, then no.
Which I guess this is a real test right here.
Yeah.
But now we'll get into Brita moments. Brita moments with Brita.
Perry.
Yeah. So we call these Brita moments because they're all the plot holes and things we don't like because we don't like Brita on Community.
Makes
And
sense. Okay.
because she's terrible.
In fact, we hate her.
Because we've devoted a whole section of the podcast to constantly bringing up the fact that we don't like her, to like epitomize what plot holes are like.
We should put her on back here. Like
We
a picture of her.
should. We need. So when we get like
Just a
posters
framed-
and stuff, we need to get like a framed
We'll
picture
just
of
smack her.
Brita.
Frame poster. Of Brita
Yeah.
Perry.
We'll be
And
like,
we need to
Brita
actually-
Moments with Brita.
And we need to
Okay.
actually like have a sound bite like when we actually start doing stuff like that. I don't even know how to like add that into Audacity, but
Please let us know. Actually, Daniel probably knows. Anyway,
we just need better editing software
we
probably.
just need better people on the job.
You just need to know what we're talking
We
about.
just
really.
need more free labor. Okay, but like actual plot holes. I don't know if there's plot holes in this as much as it's just like somewhat predictable, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like something worth pointing out.
I mean, you could always point out a plot hole, but with this movie, it's like, I don't know. It's
The
like
plot-
magic and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you can't like dissect it because it's not supposed to be dissected.
Yeah, although you will say like Victoria's character and the relationship with him, would it really take him that like are guys that stupid? I guess they probably are. Like to like
As a guy, I can confirm this.
that's true. I guess I probably would be stupid enough to like not realize soon enough that like I was in love with a star, like a literal star. But like
Yeah, I don't know.
Seems like it took him a little longer, but maybe she was just like reading into him wrong.
The prospect of loving a star that's a big commitment. That's a big, giant, gaseous thing that's fusing hydrogen into helium. It's
not,
just like,
not in this movie.
yeah, you're right. No.
Also, yeah, that's a big plot hole right there. That the star is like not a gaseous ball of helium.
It's not losing energy as we speak. In fact, it's like, it's a human. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right about the plot holes. You can't be like, wow, this isn't realistic. Like, wow, Sherlock.
like if we were to take apart the plot, we would be like, why would that old man be able to do a front flip over the wall?
we would be like the people who take movies that you're supposed to enjoy watching and like suck all of the fun out of them and all of
Which-
the enjoyment, being like we would be like hyper realists. Like
Which
we can
is-
only enjoy cinema that is like as close to reality as possible, which is not enjoyable.
Defeats
Like,
the purpose of fantasy cinema.
At that
Yeah.
point, it's just
Yeah, like,
recording people's
then
lives.
you're just making like documentaries.
they
You should
have
watch some
class,
home
yeah.
videos. But I'm gonna be honest, I do fall into that category a lot. Not because I like to hyper realize everything or whatever, but just because I like to watch people's reactions.
I might have made up that term, but it sounds like a real thing.
I don't know.
Hyper realism.
I'm sure it's real.
Because this is what I think. I used to just judge movies based on how realistic they were until I realized that like the point of cinema is not always to be realistic. Like, so you don't always judge things based on how realistic they are because that's not like what you're supposed to be judging. Yeah.
Anyway,
I just looked through the IMDb page right now, and the only thing they have as listed as a plot hole is the one point where the witch uses she conjures a goat and a small charm, and that has effect on her physical aging. And then later on, she conjures an entire inn, and that doesn't have an effect on her.
that is actually a really good point.
But that's the only thing they have listed.
you would
so.
think that she'd be like almost dead by the time she conjured up the whole inn, but I guess.
And then later on, she goes on doing stuff, and it continues to have an effect on her.
hey,
But
goats
this-
take a lot of energy.
but
Ask a
apparently, a massive structure doesn't take nearly as much energy.
Yeah, it
At
must
least
be
according to
that
this-
goats are an actual life form. That must be it.
To control life forms like
I
Wanda
mean,
from WandaVision.
if you explain it that way, then yes, it does make sense because the goat and the boy/goat/girl, because he goes through that entire transformation process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we should probably move on.
To stock market, which is just like who would we invest in if it was 2007 this movie came out? Probably not Michelle Pfeiffer because like her career is like at its peak.
I don't know. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
If you were like, oh, Robert De Niro's getting old, you would be so stupid because
he was in that
so many.
Scorsese movie, right?
He was in The Irishman,
Yeah.
and he was in like Silver Linings Playbook after this. Like he's in plenty of good movies after this. So.
But if you were looking in hindsight, like what would you actually invest in from this movie, not knowing what they would actually do today? I would invest in Charlie Cox a little bit, but not that much. I wouldn't expect him to be like Daredevil.
I would
like-
expect him to get big roles, but like I guess I wouldn't have expected him to be as successful as he was. I don't know what I would have expected, honestly. Maybe I would have expected him to be more successful.
I would have invested in Robert De Niro. I think his acting was the best in the movie.
I'm definitely putting money on De Niro. Probably some on Charlie Cox because, as the main character of this, the odds that he gets something after this. And probably a little bit on Ben Barnes, too, who plays young Dunstan, Tristan's father. So he's kind of... But he's also, right in this area because Prince Caspian comes out the year after this.
Oh, is he Prince Caspian?
Yeah.
Oh,
so this is right in the range where he, is really popular right there.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah. Oh, this movie...
But he has a very small role in this movie.
This movie reminded me of Voyage of the Dawn Treader only because of, how much green there was.
Yeah, I can see that. It has some similarities. It's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
It's a quest.
No fighting mice, though, in this movie.
There was
a mouse.
The mouse, but no fighting of the mouse. Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. I would have invested in Matthew Vaughn, but I don't know that I would have foreseen how successful Kingsman, that being in his future, because that
I would have never expected Kingsman from this.
No, I've never watched Kingsman. I think you have, right?
Oh yeah, it's very violent, but it's also very creative. With when you talk about choreography, Kingsman would get a 9 or 10, honestly. When it comes to fight scenes, no, I'd probably give Kingsman fight scenes a 10. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Well, I recommend anyone over 17 to see it.
For good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And anyone who can handle higher levels of violence than normal. Let's see. So feedback. I recently got feedback from somebody. I don't know that I'm at liberty to say their name. They listened to 4 episodes or 3 episodes, I think. And they said they had listened to our second or third episode, then our 10th episode, and then our most recent episode on searching. And they thought that we had improved a lot. So I really appreciate that feedback. I think there's a review coming our way from that. So if you're listening, you know who you are. I very, very much appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Listening to, finding us and listening to us. And that's pretty much all we have in feedback
so
so far.
We do have some announcements. So
wow, we wrote announcements and social media plugs first, and we still forgot to do it.
And I've been thinking about this whole time. But anyway, so we are going to be doing a review over the Disney Plus series WandaVision once it all finishes up. We'll probably rate the episodes or something like that, and or I don't know, rate the episodes.
We'll do something, some sort of
We'll do a couple segments within it, I guess. And
just our review of the entire series with a couple of different things. Yeah.
Just
so it won't really be a podcast. We probably won't release it on audio. Probably just on video.
We thought that'd be better than actually doing one after every episode, like all the YouTubers and podcasters out there, where we can just talk about the series as a whole.
Especially because we don't have time to do that.
And I don't know how to rate it yet because there are too many mysteries, Yeah,
because if you're doing it after each episode before the whole thing has come out, basically you're just
trying to rate.
You're trying to predict it.
It's very hard to rate, and we are not good at that.
Yeah.
Although you're like sportscasters the day after the game. All right, let's talk about what happened here and what's coming up next week.
Yeah, and we're like, oh wow, this person's gonna do this next week, and they totally mess up, or somebody has a bad game and then they do great next week. And you're absolutely right about that.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other announcement is that we're actually going to be doing some other types of YouTube videos as we've just launched our YouTube channel.
We still have a lot of work to do on our YouTube channel. We will admit we need a new logo, and we're working on that. We need to do a banner, but keep up the subscriber count. Tell your friends about it. Not all our not all our videos will be 50 minutes. We'll try to do some shorter content.
Yeah, and please give us suggestions for different things that we can do on the channel. And it's called the Last Resort Network. It's not called.
It's Last Resort under Last Resort Network on YouTube. And the reason we did that is because we don't want to limit ourselves to just podcast content. We might even go way out there with some of the stuff we do, and not even movie related. We have YouTube is there's so much possibility.
Possibilities are endless.
Yes. So
please email us with any ideas that you have or anything like that.
And you can do that at themovievaultpod@gmail.com. And you can also DM us on our Instagram account at themovievaultpod, or DM us on Twitter, or just tag us on Twitter.
Yeah.
At movievaultpod. So,
and I want to give a shout out because we got over 100 views within the first day of releasing our first video on YouTube. So thank you everyone who watched. Please continue to watch them if you think we're good. If not, then just unsubscribe. I'm joking. Subscribe.
If you don't think we're good, why are you still here?
Yeah.
How did you get this far?
That's actually
it's a good thought.
He's actually making a good point. That's why we should.
You've got better things to do with your time. Just go.
Yeah. If you don't like movie podcasts, then don't listen to any other movie podcasts if you do like movie podcasts, because you might realize that some other people are better. Anyway.
I mean, if they're better.
So let's see. Closing thoughts on the movie.
I liked it. I did. I really did. I'm glad I watched it. If I were to watch it again, it would probably be a month from now at least, because it was a lot of information within a movie. I mean, it was 2 hours and a couple minutes, I know, but
It felt a little longer than that, but it was.
Yeah. But it's because there's so much going on, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I liked the way that the plots stuck together and that they interweaved at the end. The acting was great, and so I thought it was pretty good.
If you need another reminder of what true love is, at least according to cinema, then you can watch this movie and it will teach you again. But you will also have a very entertaining and fun time on that journey with a little other side quests and some tense family relationship drama. So I thought it was a great movie, and I would probably watch it again. Although I probably won't because I watch so many new movies. I'm not really too much of a person who rewatches movies a lot, but I thought it was good enough that I would consider rewatching it. So definitely go check this out if you haven't.
I mean, I'm definitely watching it again.
Yeah.
So I may rewatch it again. Valentine's Day is this weekend, so that might be good for that one. I've rewatched it before. As also, I'll note it's one of like 5 movies that I own on DVD.
Wow,
So,
only 5.
commitment right here.
You know that I went through a streak where I bought random movies on DVD at Goodwill, and I have like Superman Returns and
I do too.
The Dark Knight.
I do too.
And like just
Shout out to Goodwill for being able to buy
$2 DVDs.
$2 DVDs. That's cheaper than you can rent most places.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it's DVD quality, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, if you're okay with DVD quality, although you will start to realize that like maybe paying for a streaming service is like more worth it than just buying DVDs because you can like watch more things. But I did go through that phase, and I still haven't watched some of those movies, and I need to watch them. So anyway, who knows what we're doing next week. And I don't even know why I still have that up at this point because we don't plan that far ahead. And so now...
Join us next week we have no idea.
It could be anything. It really depends on whether we have a guest on or if we don't, or, if somebody pays us under the table to, like, do something that they want.
Please do that.
All right.
That's how you get to the top of the list, folks.
Yeah, that's true. It actually is true.
Bribe us.
It works.
If you text us, we will give you our Venmo. Okay. So now it's time to close the vault, which is what we do every week, and as a symbolic ending to the episode. So Daniel, would you like to close the vault? You can really make any sound effect.
I suppose to.
Any sound effect that would like resemble a vault closing.
Is this vault like old
It's like
and
a bank,
rusty?
yeah,
Is
old bank.
I
vault.
imagine a big like gray
Large
metal
vault.
vault.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like there's like movies on either sides inside the vault, and me and Zach are just sitting in there.
Okay, it's a good idea because like you want to have enough room for all the movies we're gonna put in here eventually.
Yeah, there's 25 so far. So
Right, but there's plenty of space for
Shelf
more.
is
So
like that full. There's like empty space. It's like
right now it's me and Zach at 25 movies. We can only watch these 25. It's like every week that we review another movie. That's another movie that we're allowed to watch in the vault.
right now we're just rewatching Tenet, trying to think about it.
honestly, I like this way better than the deserted island question.
Yeah, like
So
what?
if you're trapped in a vault with 25 movies,
What 25 movies would you take?
Ben would be like, "Well, let me get my list out."
you need suggestions. Just go
Well,
back.
you gotta fit all the
previous episodes.
categories. You can't take all.
Ben
like,
made a
classic-
list of the most depressing movies.
Yeah, I was like, we should review depressing movies, and I just made a list of depressing movies.
All right, if I'm in the vault, I'm not watching depressing movies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like,
We're watching Pixar movies. and-
Eraserhead was number 1. I've never even watched Requiem for a Dream. I just know it's depressing.
Why? Because it's about drugs.
Oh,
And then I wrote Taxi Driver and Fight Club. They're insomnia movies, so like obviously that's depressing when you don't sleep. I like the one Whiplash is you need J.K. Simmons to yell at you to find meaning in life.
That's true. Spider-Man did that.
And then The Killing of a Sacred Deer is legitimately depressing. And Greek myths are better as myths and not like as like weird interpretations that Yorgos Lanthimos wants to like put on screen and like torture everyone with. Although it's a great movie if you should watch it. Like, people should actually watch it, but like it's very intense.
Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
would you
Well,
like
is
to
that the
close-
note we're gonna close on?
Yes.
Yes.
We usually close on notes like these.
Oh, well, that's lovely. So I'll just grab this vault here.